It's another messy, confusing day with regards to Iran. Let's get into it.
Application. I'm working for a piece for 363. How are you?
I'm okay. I am just.
What's your reaction? Trump just so Arachi posted the Islamabad MOU has never been closer, pending its finalization.
Arachi said
Media
that?
should. Yeah. So you've said that about 30 minutes ago.
The fact that it's coming from the Iranian side gives it a lot more credibility. I mean, Trump has declared a deal is near, 38, 39 times now? So it's more credible coming from the Iranian side.
So Islamabad MOU has never been closer, pending its finalization. The media should refrain from entering speculation about its content. In line with our responsible and transparent approach, all details will be shared with the public in due course. And 5 minutes ago, Trump reposted it as well.
Well, because that's a change from about an hour ago when Trump said that they were, what did he say? They were vile. They couldn't be trusted. There was a Truth Social.
He's attacking them. I think this is all him trying to control the narrative. So he says,
I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah.
The term that Iran leaked out to the fake news have nothing to do with the terms that we agreed to in writing. By the way, this is concerning when I saw this. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears that it made no statement, by the way, bears no relation to the truth.
Yeah.
Very dishonorable people to deal with. With them, there's no such thing as with them. There's no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, they totally rebuffed drone attack last night against the Indian ship, leaving the Hormuz Strait. Is totally unacceptable. So, and then the Arachi made that statement. Trump reposted it. What do you make of these developments? Are you getting more optimistic that we might have an MOU?
No, I think even if we get an MOU, again, it's 60 days at best. That's not what we need. We need an end to this thing now, and
Agreed.
It needs to be fully over, not paused. Remember we had a magnificent pause between June of last year after we did the pinprick strikes on those suspected Iranian nuclear sites that were supposedly obliterated, but I guess since we're still negotiating over them, they weren't. We had a pause though between then and February 28th. So if we're lucky, I guess we get as much 6 months maybe pause. But let's get real here. There's still no discussion about what does the end state look like for this conflict. Tell me how this ends was the famous refrain, when General Petraeus was made commander of the Iraq War. Nobody can tell me how this ends because it still seems like the fundamental problems underlying the fight are still present, right? The nuclear weapons issue was never really the primary problem. That was always a problem. The primary problem is right now the Strait of Hormuz, which they still have under the deal. They'll have up to 30 days to reopen fully. Now, they might start letting things here and there get through, and that's good.
Which means we're still fucked in terms of the global economy because 1 month from now, that's already approaching the time where we'll run out of oil. So there will be some type of freak out in the oil market in July, even if this deal is signed, given that Iranians will probably slowball the opening.
But it's not a full reopening. And again, I have very serious doubts that Tehran is just going to take their foot off the gas pedal here. I think they're going to let it bleed for another 30 days. They get the deal. The other thing is I'm very disturbed by the fact that the president is not going to do the signing. This is apparently going to be, if it's done at all, they're calling it the Islamabad Accord or whatever, but it's being signed in Geneva, Switzerland, if it happens at all. That to me is bizarre. Vance is going to be doing it, not the president of the United States. He's the one who supposedly negotiated this.
He's trying to...
Yeah, Vance is being thrown under the bus.
He's trying to stay away from it because it's pretty bad for the U.S. throwing JD under the bus.
Oh, exactly. Believe me, I know. And as somebody who's a big supporter of JD Vance, I think he's being played like a fiddle. I tried to give my opinion on this to certain people around him, and they're not listening. This is the vice president.
Yeah, basically, Trump needs to surrender to Iran, and he doesn't want to do it himself, so he's sending Vance to do it in his place.
The president is going to salute and do his duty. If it were me, I would have told the president, I'm not going. Send Rubio. And Rubio is, of course, getting out scot-free, right? Because this thing's going to go tits up. And at some point, like it did...
Oh, not to me. Rubio is just as bad as Trump in regard to Iran. Yeah. Vance, Rubio, Trump, they're all finished because of this Iran war. They just don't know it yet.
Remember, what was it, a month and a half ago or a month ago? Vance flew to Pakistan and put on this big dog and pony show. Yeah, we're close to a deal. And my understanding is they were very close to a deal. That Vance had actually done a very good job of negotiating, and the Iranians were ready to come meet him and finalize a deal. The Iranians were under the impression that they had a finalized deal in the offing, and then Netanyahu called Vance and Trump, and Vance leaves without a deal. And so I suspect the pattern here, if we're just looking at pattern recognition, recognition, I'm very worried that this is how this is going to play out. And we can't underestimate the ancillary factors to this whole day.
And going by historical precedents, when they actually have a deal, as on the verge of signing, and Vance flies over to Geneva, that's when Trump bombs Iran again. Just like he did the past 2 times when they were right on the absolute edge of negotiation succeeding. Trump bombs Iran. That is just a reoccurring pattern.
Dance. The ancillary factors are the economic and the media perception. What's going on right now? I mentioned this last night. The SpaceX IPO, and then you have this weekend the glorious UFC fight on the White House front lawn on Sunday evening. Sunday, which is when they're supposed to be doing the signing ceremony, supposedly, for this deal. So I can't put it past Trump to just say he's trying to do this to buy time to get through this weekend, and then suddenly next week there's going to be some provocation, and the whole thing reverts to norm, which is a frozen conflict that's teetering on some massive regional calamity. I think that your audience is savvy. I think that I can appreciate your optimism, and I think more people should be optimistic, but I think they should be cautiously optimistic because we've been down this road before.
Absolutely.
There's one of the points on the deal includes a wild card, and that's the Lebanon ceasefire, because Israel has to abide by this. I was just speaking to to a Pakistani senator, former caretaker,
and there's zero chance of that happening.
Prime Minister of Pakistan about half an hour ago.
Who was it? Was it Mushahid?
You need to stop asking me for names.
Sorry. I keep forgetting.
Anwar ul-Haq Kakar.
Okay, all right.
So I asked him the question on the Israeli issue and whether it is an issue and whether he's concerned about it. And we were aligned on this, that Trump has more influence over Netanyahu than vice versa. That's what he believes. Now, maybe he's being hopeful. What's your stance on this? Do you think Trump will be able to rein in Netanyahu on Lebanon?
I love the
that would jeopardize the deal after we can sign an MOU, but then implementation follows, and that's where the worry is.
I know that the U.S. and Pakistan.
Israel has never abided to any of these Middle East agreements. Like the ceasefires with Hamas, ceasefires with Lebanon, they always break them.
They have a very complex relationship, but I've always loved the Pakistanis. They're very optimistic people. God bless them. No, I don't believe that Trump has the ability to rein in Netanyahu. I think that at best, Trump's going to, and he might be trying to do this now, but it isn't going to work, I don't think. I think at best, Trump is just going to separate from Netanyahu on this and craft his own deal and then say, it's up to you, Netanyahu, to figure out what you're going to do. But the problem is the linkage problem, right? Iran has been clear from the beginning. Again, I hate having to say this because I'm not a fan of the Iranian regime, but they have been consistent in what they are calling for to get a deal done. And one of them is the linkage between the U.S. negotiations with Iran to end the conflict with the Israeli provocations in southern Lebanon, ostensibly against Iranian proxies and Hezbollah, although it does seem like there's more going on than what meets the eye, as there usually is. But the Iranians...
I'll just put out a statement. Let me read that out.
Yeah, please, because maybe I'm going to be proven wrong. Hopefully I am.
No, I don't think so. Israel would not withdraw from the security zone in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. The IDF will continue to defend our borders and our citizens at the peak of the Mount Hermon, the mountains.
Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. Three non-Israeli countries where Israelis are currently stationed. Israel is hungry for land.
Of Lebanon, the areas of Iran and Samaria region, which is the West Bank, and most of the territory of Gaza, against the threat posed by jihadist forces, blah, blah, blah. So essentially, he just said he won't withdraw out of Lebanon. Now, we don't know whether the MOU with Iran includes a ceasefire in Lebanon or also includes Israel withdrawing out of Lebanese territory. So that's where it gets...
I think and that's a great point, and I've been trying to figure that out. In fact, I did a post.
I don't think it will include withdrawal. I don't think it will.
I don't think... even if we said to the Iranians that we would want the Israelis to do this, the Israelis are not going to do it. The Israelis are not going to do it. Remember the Netanyahu speech where he said that it's imperative for Israeli prime ministers to tell the American president no. This is Netanyahu's view of the relationship. He is the senior partner compared to Trump. And in some respects, just by dint of having been around longer in politics and having dealt with the United States, he's dealt with every president since I think Bill Clinton, maybe even earlier. He sort of has the same view of the American leadership that Putin does. Presidents come and go, but my interests remain the same. So unfortunately, I believe the Iranians have still got it in their head that there's a linkage here between what the U.S. is negotiating for an end to the conflict with Israel standing down in southern Lebanon. I see no indication that Israel thinks this or that Israel will follow suit.
No, absolutely not. Netanyahu has elections coming out. So he is under incredible pressure to keep the war in Lebanon going. He loses if he doesn't. Trump is the opposite. He needs peace or he loses the midterms. Very different priorities.
The only thing, Mario, that would possibly do this, force the Israelis to step back. And the Trump administration is preternaturally incapable of doing this, as is Congress, as we're seeing with the NDAA and the Intelligence Authorization Act for next year. The only thing would be to listen to Joe Kent and actually tell the Israelis, we're cutting you off from these specific weapon systems. We're cutting you off from these intelligence sharing programs effective immediately until you start aligning. It's not going to happen, I know. But that's the only thing that would actually force the Israelis to slow down. And until that happens, we're going to be stuck in a pattern where we get these reprieves, but it's, like I said before, I think I said it 2 times ago on your show, at best we're getting a frozen conflict, which is bad still for the global economy.
Yeah, this is where we start.
Only frozen until the oil shock hits. Then pressure from the world will make the U.S., Israel, and Iran sort this out.
Agreeing a lot more, because I think the MOU, which I think we'll get, that's an MOU, and I think that's just delaying, reaching long-term peace, solving issues such as the bases in the region, Iran's nuclear program, primary, secondary sanctions, and all of the sanctions, and of course the Lebanon issue. That's going to be a lot more complex, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a ceasefire in Lebanon last three months or so, and then it's taken out of the deal, and then we see Iran dealing with Israel separate from the US. Now the big question is, if these guys get into a war again, because now Iran is not shy from getting into war with Israel, unlike the previous Iran. So if they do get into a war again, what will the US do about it? Will they stay out of it? Will Israel be willing to get into a war with Iran if the US is not there supporting them? So it is uncharted territory moving forward.
The best, and I'm just speculating here, thinking that far ahead, the best case scenario for the US only is if we did in fact get the MOU, we did in fact de-escalate for 60 days, maybe a little bit longer, and then the Iranians and the Israelis started duking it out, but the Americans just said, we're out. That would be great.
Yeah, but we're still giving Israel weapons. We're getting them air defenses, missiles. We're helping them with refueling jets so they can bomb Iran when they do that. Yeah, it'd be impossible for us to just stop supporting Israel overnight.
It wouldn't be great for Israel. It's unfortunate for, that part of the world, which that whole region would again be torn asunder. But from the American perspective, and I am America first only, that was probably the best solution. Again, given the connectivity between our elite and the Israeli elite, given the shared worldviews between our elite and the Israeli elite, I mean, we've really embraced the Israeli security kind of paradigm. So I don't foresee that happening. I think if Iran really goes ham on Israel, which I think they're getting ready to do at some point, I think if they really do that, though, the Americans will be sucked right back in to another Middle East war, and we'll be back here in October or September, which is the worst time, actually, for that to happen. But I think that's the best case of this whole MOU.
Yeah.
So the Prime Minister...
The war exploding again right at the same time as midterm elections in the United States. Oh my God, would the Republicans be screwed?
Pakistan just put out a statement. Amid the ongoing intense mediation efforts by Pakistan, we are fully aware of incessant misinformation campaign being waged by those who want to sabotage the peace deal. I guess who they're talking about. Setting aside the noise, we can confirm that a final agreed upon text of the peace deal has been reached, and Pakistan is now working closely with both sides to finalize the next steps. Peace has never been this close as it is now. So then the big question is, what?
God love him.
Oh. It's not the first time I hear that.
Oh, God, I love him.
So the details of the deal. So according to the Iranians, the deal has 14 points. End of hostilities on all fronts. Big sticking one.
Yes.
Non-interference, U.S. non-interference in Iran's internal affairs, fine. Complete lifting of the naval blockade, we know. U.S. commitment to withdraw its forces from around Iran, vague. I think this implies the military buildup. I'm sure the bases are not going to be included in a one-page MOU or a short MOU. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz under Iranian arrangements. That's what the Iranian media said. So the big other question here is, will Iran charge a fee?
Yes.
As the Israeli said, there is no fee. Suspension of sanctions on the sale of oil, petrochemical products, and derivatives, and full access of Iran to its financial resources. So that's the sanctions on the oil and petrochemical products and derivatives. That's something that I think will be included because the U.S. lifted it already during the war, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The necessity of the U.S. and its allies to present reconstruction plans, or a $300 billion reconstruction plan. We've talked about. They're talking about. What you have to understand, when there's an MOU, you fluff it up.
No, I know. I know what an MOU is, but
I mean for the audience.
Yeah.
I'm saying these things are all fluff. Like there's going to be, I was just saying before, there's going to be concrete things like who will control the Strait of Hormuz? Will the sanctions be lifted? Will the war in Lebanon end? Then there's long-term things which we will discuss this. You promised to do that. That's what
the aspirational, right? The
exactly.
aspirational, right? But let's just get clear here. We haven't seen what we saw this morning. What happened when the Iranians started posting stuff like this, and Trump went postal, saying that it's all fake news. Okay.
Yes, that's what makes me think Trump isn't ready to sign this deal. I mean, when the details of the deal are leaked, he goes postal. Is he really going to sign something that makes him go postal when details leak?
I think there might very well be a very serious misinterpretation of the MOU between the U.S. side and the Iranian side already. Hope I'm wrong, but I will say also, if the reality...
Or perhaps that's a Trump plan. Have Trump go over and accept basically U.S. surrenders to Iran in this deal, and he signs the deal. And then Trump says, "Oh, Vance betrayed me. He signed this deal. It was a lot worse. I would never have signed that deal myself." Maybe that's what Trump is going for. I don't know.
Is closer, or exactly what the Iranians are saying it is. This is a complete strategic defeat of the United States. We have been defeated.
Yes.
And there needs to be a very serious accounting, like a 9/11 style commission, only, more competent, conducted within our government that will actually ask the hard questions of this administration. WTF happened? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that because we don't have a Congress anymore. And it's not even a political issue anymore, because I can tell you what, whatever Democrat voters may be screaming about right now, the fact is the Democrat elite...
Democrats were totally on board with this, the Democratic elites. Just like the media that's normally attacking Trump all the time. They were totally on board. This was an establishment war that all establishment forces supported.
Schumers of the world, the older generation that's running the party, their opposition to this war has been very muted for a reason, because secretly both they and the GOP agree on the need for this war. But there needs to be a very serious accounting here for what happened, because this is one of the greatest humiliations of the U.S. military power that I have seen, probably, well, certainly since Afghanistan, but maybe not even since the Vietnam withdrawal. And nobody's asking the hard questions. We don't have a Congress. We don't have a corporate press. And certainly the military can't ask these questions because all these guys are their bosses.
Agreed.
So the other point here is 60 days of negotiations to reach a final agreement based on nuclear issues and the complete lifting of primary, secondary U.S. sanctions and UN Council and IAEA resolutions. That's to discuss. So the 60 days will be to discuss those difficult issues.
And that's when
reiteration of Iran's,
by the way.
That's where it gets really difficult. Yeah, that's where it's a lot harder to be optimistic if we'll go back into like kind of status quo. If this MOU is all we have, which is not a good case scenario, but seems like the only scenario right now. If it was that hard to reach a freaking MOU, imagine a long-term peace.
Remember, it took 3 years, and I thought it was a bad deal, but it took 3 years for the Obama administration to negotiate the original JCPOA. And that was with no pressure. Well, there were certain things in there I thought were, if you're really concerned about the nuclear arrangements, there were...
Oh, this is not Noida. Thank you. This should be just chatting. OBS decided to update itself today and it's acting strangely. Thank you. Leo BB.
Certain sunset clauses in there, like there would have been sunset clauses by 2025 of the original deal that Obama forged. Now, the argument that I was told when I worked on the Hill from the Democrats was, well, they didn't put it this way, but the implication was that Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, and at some point in her term, she was going to renegotiate, and they basically would keep going back and sort of tweaking the deal. But of course, that never happened because Trump came in and he shredded the whole thing, and a lot of us were okay with that. But looking back on, hindsight's 2020, the fact that we're in this position now as opposed to where we thought we would be with Iran, the whole situation has been, we're not getting a good deal here. We're getting basically a glorified surrender document. And at this point, if it gets America out of the Middle East, like militarily, permanently, we're going to have to, eat the crow here because we'll get something better in the long run. But until I see something better in the long run, this is a very, very disastrous outcome for.
Very well stated. It's exactly what I've been saying. The United States will end up surrendering to Iran, basically, to get Strait of Hormuz open. And given by Trump's reaction to the leaked points of the deal, I don't think he's ready to sign it or abide by it if Vance signs it. And I think we're going to need to get to actual oil shortages before any of this gets resolved.
For the United States, if Trump actually does this. If he doesn't do it, it's another disaster, though, because then we're right back to where we started.
Yep.
So it's really a bad position to be in.
Number 9 is reiteration of Iran's commitment under the NPT to not produce nuclear weapons, which has always been the case. Nothing new there. Number 10, during the negotiations period, the U.S. has committed not to add forces in the region and not impose new sanctions. Fine. 11, release of $24 billion of blocked funds during the 60 days, with $12 billion made available at the start of the negotiations. Now, J.D. Vance put out a statement, after this one, a couple of hours after this, about half an hour ago as well, saying that there won't be any funds released until Iran meets certain obligations. So I think what he means is, out of the $24 billion, half of it will be released instantly because Iran has to meet obligations instantly, whatever those are, like opening the Strait of Hormuz. We'll see what the MOU is. And then $12 billion is released. I'm assuming, as I've always said, from the Qataris. We'll see if that's the case. Number
I think
12,
you're probably right about that. I think it's probably going to come from.
Yeah, because it was a big sticking point. We heard nonstop that it was a sticking point, and then the Qataris were in Iran. So
Yes, Trump doesn't want to be seen as giving money to Iran because he attacked Obama for doing that. So instead, we're doing this thing where Qatar is lending money to Iran equal to the amount of frozen Iranian assets. And so we aren't unfreezing their money. We're just giving them money equal amount to the amount that's frozen, and it's all nonsense. We're basically unfreezing their money.
So that gives you an idea of why the Qataris were there.
It's also because this then starts to veer into congressional, the Congress's area, and Congress is never going to be okay with, well, I shouldn't say never, but I have serious doubts that the current group running Congress would be completely okay with releasing those funds. I know that the president has authority over this, but there are certain things that they could do to gum up the works. Although we've been paying the Taliban, what is it, $40 billion a month or something since we pulled out. So, that's maybe we'll be okay with it. I don't know, but it's not good. It's not a good look for America any way you look at it.
Just checking that $4 billion a month between 2021 and 2025. The US provided $4 billion in assistance for Afghanistan.
So it's not $4 billion a month. It's $4 billion total.
Interesting. That's crazy if that's the case. Yeah. Right. So last 3 points: formation of a supervisory mechanism to implement the agreement. Fine. The final agreement will be approved by the UN Security Council.
And $40 billion total is still a huge amount.
And then last point is the final negotiations will not begin before the release of half of the blocked funds, so $12 billion, suspension of Iran's oil sanctions, and lifting of the naval blockade. And the final agreement will only cover the fate of enriched materials and enrichment, lifting of sanctions, and Iran's economic reconstruction plans. So yeah, I think the next deal will be a lot harder, and it'll take a long time, and I think they'll be kicking the can down the road. The 60-day deal, this MOU will be delayed indefinitely, similar to the last ceasefire, while they have these negotiations. But these are going to be very difficult negotiations.
Yeah, and remember the last ceasefire, that was a very tenuous ceasefire, shall we say.
Yes.
And again, there's a third party in this whole thing that's not being really addressed, and that's Israel. And the fact of the matter is that the president, I don't believe, has any control over his junior partner. So we will.
Well, if you say that, why is his junior partner not bombing Beirut? They'd love to bomb Beirut. They haven't.
Well, look,
they want, they will.
It's a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, they like Netanyahu understands perception. He understands listen, Netanyahu, I think he was quoted in 2001 speaking. He didn't know he was recorded to an Israeli family when he was campaigning. And he basicly said that you have to know how to manage the Americans. And he's not wrong. We're this big country with this massive amount of power, but I don't think people realize how, I don't want to say tenuous, but basically how short-sighted and malleable the American political elite are, particularly when it comes to things like receiving money. Remember, we've legalized bribery in this country in the form of lobbying. And
yeah, it's sad.
And Israel, China, Russia, Qatar, all these countries take advantage of that legalized bribery system. And so it's very easy to manipulate and play and plus Americans care about the moment. We care about short-term things. And other countries...
Again, in terms of lobbying, the media is the problem. The media did a better job on keeping track of what politicians, what money they took, and what favors they gave out. If they called it out more often, taking money from lobbyists would become more politically costly and not be worth it in certain situations. So is the media. I mean, just the fact that most Americans have no idea how much money AIPAC pours into congressional races, that's a failing of the media.
These ancient countries know that, and they know how to play on that.
I'm seeing which other countries have a similar lobbying system as the US. Canada, UK, Australia, Germany, France, Japan, South Korea, and the EU. Interesting.
Now, China does something funny where they do it indirectly. It's very interesting how they do it. They will hire, they'll hire some well-known lobbying firm in the United States to kind of represent their interests and sort of get in there without doing it directly. It's sort of this indirect thing. They don't really create an AIPAC. Remember, AIPAC was created. It's its own entity. China is much more indirect in it, but they have a lot of pull, particularly through these multinational companies. So what will happen is multinational companies in Washington will either have their own lobbying arm or they'll hire one of the big lobbying firms, and they will work to protect their interests in China. Eamon Fingleton called this reverse convergence. Basically, the idea in the 90s and 80s when we opened up to China, when we went into China with business, the idea was called convergence, where the United States would send its businesses and its capitalism into communist China. They'd all get fabulously rich and slowly converge with the West, becoming purely capitalist, no more communist. Eamon Fingleton in 2008 wrote a book called In the Jaws of the Dragon, and he dubbed what he experienced as a trade representative for the United States and China in the 90s as reverse convergence. American companies do go to China, they make a lot of money in China, and then they want to protect their assets in China, so they flip and start using their leverage with Washington to start doing the bidding of Beijing. So
yep, exactly.
It's a very interesting dynamic.
Interesting. We should do a whole episode on China.
I'd love to.
I'd
love to.
Something going to pop up soon.
Well, I don't know if you saw this. I'm working on a story right now, but 24 hours ago, Taiwan tested the new HIMARS. They received a cluster of HIMARS, and they tested it in western Taiwan, and they aimed it. Now, obviously, it's very well outside the range of the weapon, but the implication was clear. They shot the rockets directly at the direction of the mainland, and the Chinese are now...
This is always the case with... Just like Ukraine is always provoking Russia, just like Israel's always provoking everyone around it. Taiwan gets these missiles from the United States, they aim them and they fire them straight at China, although it's outside their range. Yes, it's not... The U.S. and its allies are the ones provoking the world. It's not the other way around.
Now, freaking out. But, that's another one, the whole Indo-Pacific... the whole world is watching what America does right now. And if you are, the one thing I will say, I've never bought fully into the credibility argument. I think that's overstated, but it is still something to consider. If you are concerned about maintaining American alliances, you have to be worried about what Trump is doing with this MOU and how that's going to have knock-on effects for American alliances. Now, personally,
this Iran war is going to have big long-term effects on American alliances. No question about that. I mean, the limits of American power have been put on display for the entire world to see. Of course, that's going to have big knockdown effects.
Just of the mind, we need to pull back and focus on the Western Hemisphere in our own country. But if you are someone worried about the American alliance structure, regardless of whether the MOU goes forward or not, the fact is we look really bad. And yes. Taiwan's looking at this. Japan's looking at this. This is why Japan has now loosened their export controls for the first time in 80 years on selling weapons. This is why Japan is very hawkish right now, because they're freaking out in Tokyo and Taipei that the Americans aren't going to have their back. And by the way, I don't think we will. If China really decides to do something. We can't. We are maxed out, Mario. This dog won't hunt anymore.
Mm-hmm. Poor dog.
Yeah.
That's why NATO's deterrence in Europe is at an all-time low. And meanwhile, Europe's provocation against Russia are at an all-time high. Not a good combination. I think sometime this year, there's a very good chance Russia is going to strike EU territory.
Yes, it's a tired dog. It's a depleted dog.
It was fighting a bear a few years ago for decades. It won that war. Now it's fighting a dragon. The dog's like, what the hell? It's being a bear and now the dragon to deal with.
It's it's the meme. I'm tired, boss. So.
By the way, the UAE sent a transport aircraft to South Korea to pick up some of the air defenses they have there.
Yeah.
Now you've seen that as well. I've been saying for a while the UAE is diversifying. A lot of people up in arms. UAE Israel, but the UAE is just, I think, doing what I've always thought it will do and being as neutral as possible. It can't be fully neutral.
I don't think the UAE is neutral at all.
No,
not
neutral.
Yeah. Getting air defenses from Israel and South Korea. Yeah. And I was just speaking to the Pakistani former PM, the caretaker PM, and he said that our relationship with the UAE is great.
No, the UAE it's a small country, but it's behaving as a hinge player. This is what hinge players do. They play both sides against their middle, and they try to get the best deal. That's what they have to do. But I would argue that they did get way too close to the U.S. and Israel recently, and now they're going to have to diversify because it's very obvious the American staying power in the region is no more.
I think they will diversify.
I think they will too. No, I think
they were close with the UAE even before. With Iran. Iran used the UAE to avoid sanctions.
I know that. But like I said, they were always a hinge player.
They used the UAE to avoid sanctions, but they froze a ton of Iranian assets during this war, which angered Iran.
They have to do because they're a tiny country in a very contested part of the world.
Now, the big question is, I think what the discussion will be in a couple of weeks' time, obviously the negotiations for the deal, but that would get very exhausting very quickly because it's just going to, I hope this time, and I think this time, we'll go through a normal process. There won't be Trump making random posts every couple of days. After this, my prediction will be there'll be the MOU signed. Trump will ease up talking about Iran and a deal and all that, and they'll go into proper negotiations for till me and you have grandkids. I think that's
We'd all better hope that there's no rain at the UFC fight this weekend, because I have a feeling if it gets rained out, because that's what's supposed to happen, supposedly rain.
Yes, because it rains on Saturday. Trump's in a bad mood, and the entire Iran deal falls apart. That's it's crazy that is potentially a realistic scenario.
On the agenda for the night, if it gets rained out, I have a feeling Trump's going to be in a very bad mood.
Trump will blame Iran for seeding the cloud.
Yes, the rain is Iran's fault. They betrayed the deal. They betrayed our trust. War with Iran because of the rain.
Rooting his UFC night.
All right, let's see what happens. I appreciate your analysis, man.
Yeah.
As always, yesterday's today, and fingers crossed we'll probably jump back again soon to talk about what the MOU actually involves. We'll hopefully get the clarity.
Well, that's more or less the state we're in. There's supposedly a deal that's being finalized. I'm skeptical. One, we need to find out what's in this deal, because every time the contents of the deal leaks, Trump goes ballistic, as the reported content of the deal is unacceptable to him. And yet that's the deal he's on the verge of signing. It's crazy. Let's just wait and see. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.